How great of a guy is he?
The best. He's a great teammate. He he's there for everybody else all the time. He's got a great sense of humor. He's learning the English language slowly. I actually believe he speaks it better than he lets on. I know he understands it well. He's played. He's as good as everybody thinks he is. He's that good of a baseball player, but he's really a good fella, and I really enjoy being around him.
When you guys were together, did you ever talk Cubs? Did it ever come up, like life as a Cub or life at Wrigley, anything like that?
No, our conversations never went in that direction. A lot of it was, just this. I mean, actually, I wanted him to play golf with me. That was one of the big things. I wanted to get him on a golf course. I wanted to see that.
Huh.
But otherwise, it was mostly, the day. And, what's going on with him? How's he doing? I love his interpreter, Ipe. Ipe's a good friend also. It was a lot of it was honestly baseball-related kind of conversations. Nothing really too far off. Like I said, I wanted to get him out there because the way that the bat speed is incredible. I like to see how it translates with the golf ball. But primarily like good baseball conversation, sometimes maybe about where he'd come from. But for the most part, what's going on right now? How do you feel? What do you think about tomorrow? Those kind of things.
Just from the little that we know you, I know you will defer credit. But he did blossom under you, right? He wasn't as healthy with previous managers. He didn't play as many games in a season. Maybe we'd only have 10 games on a mound when Socha was there. What do you see as your role in unlocking what it became?
When I first got there, it was I was all about getting him to do two things. Started in 2020. He was coming off of an injury, though, and Billy Epler and the crew that was in charge there was really reticent to turn him loose. And so, I played along. But then when it got to 2021, he immediately had a conversation with Perry, and he was totally on board with taking the strings off of him a bit. And for me, it was the only way to do this because this guy came to the United States to do two things. That's why he signed up. That's why he signed up in L.A. That's why he signed up with the American League team. So I thought it was absolutely the right thing to do. Plus, it was something I wanted to do in the minor leagues years ago, a kid by the name of Deshaun Warren. So it's always been fascinating to me, but I didn't realize to what extent and how great he would be at it.
Did you ever toy with the idea of having him be a closer? I wonder when he comes back from this second injury, Joe, if that's something that makes sense for him.
I would still keep. I mean, he wants to be a starter. That would only be because everything else is not working, I think. I'm certain he's going to come back and he's going to pitch well again. This guy is so motivated. He knows his place in the game. He knows where he wants to go to. He knows the legacy he wants to leave. He's very motivated. And he's very directed and precise. So I believe he will overcome this. I know it's unusual to have somebody do it twice and still be great at what he does as a pitcher. But if anybody can do it, he can. He's that motivated.
Joe, were you at the meeting when the Cubs pitched him the first time around?
Yep, sitting right across from him. Directly across from him, what is that, CCA? Southern California, we all flew out there and sitting, right across and just obviously, he was very quiet, taking it all in. He didn't speak hardly any English at that time, and everybody was doing the talking for him. But really, everybody was on pins and needles going into it. And again, I never saw him play, so I know he's good, but I never saw any of that. So it's like, okay, he's a good baseball player. And so I took it all in, too. And eventually, we thought we had a shot. The big thing was at that time, again, to try to convince people to let him do two things, especially the National League game. And that's something I did before the Universal DH took over. We did that with the Angels. We played a National League game in the American League. And I thought it was possible, but it's hard to convince people of that if they've never done anything like that regarding running that kind of a game and, the program for this particular player. I think the biggest thing, probably the most important thing we did there was let him create his own program because after all, regardless of any sports science dude or whatever, there's you don't know. Nobody knows because nobody's ever done this. So don't try to create some kind of a program for him. Let him create his own program. That's what he did in Japan. He knows what he feels like. Nobody else does. So it was really important to me, I thought, that to leave him alone and let him, I don't want to use the word dictate, but in a sense dictate, tell us what he can do. And that was the one thing I asked from him on a daily basis. You tell me the night before what you think you could do the next day. And the one point he made to me was, if my legs feel tired, that's probably when I might need a day off the next day. But frankly, I don't even know if that happened maybe once or twice the whole time I had him.
Wow. Can you just, I mean, obviously, like we've talked to Jed about it. Like you guys, like you said, you didn't have the DH at the time, so you were fighting an uphill battle. But a lot has been made, and only some has been reported about these elaborate, in-depth pitches that the Cubs put together, whether it be for a guy like Lester or a successful one, or a bid for Ohtani where they ultimately don't come through. What is a Cubs pitch to a tier 1 free agent like? What can you tell us about it?
It's orchestrated. I mean, they do a nice job, right down to the video, getting as many people involved as they possibly can. In a sense, in a situation like Shohei, like really researching his history, where he came from, what it was like to grow up there, the traditions of that country, or maybe more specifically the region of Japan that he had come from. It was very orchestrated. Everybody, we were all versed in advance, and of course, Theo took the lead in the moment. So, but that's I'm sure everybody did the same thing. I can't believe or understand that anybody would do anything differently. It's just that under Theo, it was a very orchestrated and well thought out plan.
Last thing on Shohei from me, anyway. Do you have a feel for what he'd be valuing right now, Joe? I mean, obviously you want to be with a good organization with good facilities and all that, but what do you think he would want most from a team at this point?
The opportunity to win and to create, to really, I guess, how shall I say, further his legacy. Someplace that he could call home for a long period of time, a place he feels comfortable. Environmentally, with the people around in the neighborhood, a sense of feeling safe. I think all that stuff matters to him. I don't know that it's as important to him to be on the West Coast as it was when he originally signed, the proximity to Japan. I think at that point it was a comfort kind of a thing, but now he's pretty much dominated the United States. And he knows what it's like to play in New York. He knows what it's like to start an all-star game. He knows as a pitcher and as a hitter. So he's overcome a lot of the different maybe trepidations he had walking into it. So I think he's checked a lot of boxes. So I think the entire league is open to him. That to me is where I see he's at. Is Chicago viable? It is, but I think honestly the weather might be a detriment early in the season. The wind may play in this, and this guy's going to consider everything, and so is his representation. That's why I think when people talk about Toronto, I think it's viable. Because of the roof and because of the population and the base there, and he's going to feel very comfortable. And the fact that he's not had a chance to really dominate another country. I mean, all these things are probably part of the evaluation process for him. He's not going to leave a stone unturned. He sees everything. He's quiet, but he's a great observer. He's really sharp, and he knows what he wants.
So he doesn't like the cold.
Taylor Swift of baseball.
The Taylor Swift of baseball.
She does everything, right? She writes the songs, she plays the instruments, produces.
Yeah, last night I watched I didn't know. I watched the special last night. She's really impressive. Her songwriting, the way she puts things together, the meaning she's bringing across, the stories that she's weaving. I didn't know all that. I did not know any of that. And then I watched it and I was really impressed. But that's kind of like what he's like. He weaves everything together. He sees everything. He knows what he wants. And then he goes out and he gets it. He attacks it because he is so good. He is that good. Everything, the numbers you've seen, it's no accident. He is that good. So it's going to be as he sees things, as he sees the world, what does he really want? And what kind of impression different areas make on him. I'm not saying he doesn't like the cold weather, but I think as a hitter, I mean, early on, April, May could be kind of difficult there. And even later in the season with the wind blowing in, although he could penetrate any kind of element. I know that. But then again, as a pitcher coming back, there's a lot of things he's going to consider. I'm just trying to be honest with you. I don't know anything. This would be my evaluation.
Yeah, no, that's what we're asking for. If he asked you about the Cubs, what would you tell him?
No, I tell him it's the big leagues of the big leagues. That's what I always felt while I was there. And I've told you guys this a zillion times, and I've told. I mean, first of all, you have the best fans in history. The reason why I love going back there now more than anything is to interact with the fans, and I just did that. The 400 Club last year I did that. Done some autograph signings there, and it's always the same. The people I remember well. There's nobody. Everybody has a positive vibe from what had happened. And I just ran into a Cub fan the other night. My God, it was incredible. So it's the fans, and then the ballpark. That's number two, man. I wasn't denigrating. It's just a fact. It's right on a lake, and it's tough. But the ballpark itself, I did say thank you every time I walked in the building. So if anybody asks me, it's the big leagues of the big leagues.
See, that's awesome. Joe, we missed the restaurant. Got to be honest. That was a damn good restaurant,
yeah,
sir.
It was great. And it's unfortunate it's no longer there. It's probably, honestly, one of my biggest disappointments about leaving town. It's, I've always liked to cook. I've liked food. My mom taught me back at an early age. And I just thought we did a great job putting together. I thought the chef was outstanding. The vibe was wonderful. It's really disappointing that had to end too quickly. It'd be kind of neat if that was still there. That'd give me a reason to come back there and more often because I thought it was that good too.
So the ever curious, vibrant mind of Joe Maddon. I had it on the list, Danny. Was going to ask like what he was interested in these days, what he was curious about, books, music, whatever. But he took us to Taylor Swift right away.
Yeah,
like you never know.
Always curious.
You never know what he's into. Hey, have you talked to your old friend, your player, your protege, David Ross, since what happened to him with Craig Counsell and the Cubs? Have you talked to David?
I have not talked to him. I immediately texted him, and he got back to me. I don't think you guys saw that coming. I didn't see that coming, and surprised. I mean, this guy, he obviously took my spot. I was very happy that it was David that took my spot. He's a World Series hero. Even though he was there for a brief period of time as a player, he really ingratiated himself to the fan base. He's one of my favorite teammates of all time. So, yeah, it was surprising to me. I don't know the decision-making process. I don't even pretend to know. I was involved in a similar situation when I first got my opportunity there, and it's not easy. The difference would be that David was firmly based in Chicago Cubs lore based on what he had done there. So for me, it was different. I don't know enough reason about it. Different things I read, but I don't believe everything I read and hear either. So I'm disappointed because David means a lot to me, and he meant an interesting team.
When you see what they said, I mean, I know you don't believe everything you read, but like what they No, I know, and I respect that.
I would much rather they come out and say exactly why they did it. Why did you pursue this? Why did you want to do this? Everything's always veiled, and that's the one thing that it really, when somebody shoots me straight between the eyes and tells me straight up, I'll always appreciate that more. It's something I've actually mentioned that if I tell you the truth, you might not like me for a week or 10 days, but if I lie to you, you're going to hate me forever. So I regardless, I know what I read, and I know all that, but it's hard for me to believe that David was that inept as a manager. I don't believe that. I know what he's like. I know I sat next to him. We talked a lot, and I know how much he cares. So that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I don't think that they thought or said that David was inept. I think that they got a significant upgrade at manager.
Right, and then I know what I've heard, and that's all subjective regarding what you think that significant upgrade is and why.
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the hard part for David, right? Is that
exactly?
And I suppose that was the hard.
I'm talking about a friend. I'm talking about a friend right now too, so I have to understand that also. And it's not that I know Craig's wonderful. I mean, listen, I've worked against him. He's very good at what he does. But David's a friend, and so I want to believe I am objective all the time, and I think I normally am, but in this situation, I just don't know enough to be totally objective.
No, I understand, but like that's the hard part. That's like, Ricky probably felt that when the thing that happened with you, right? It's just all of a sudden you're a competitive person, and you're basically being told this person is better than you, and that's a hard thing to hear as a competitor, I would imagine.
Well, even being let go by the Angels is the same thing, under the same set of circumstances. But the game can be cruel but you know that going in, and nothing wrong with that. I'd say you got to be a big boy. You got to put your big boy panties on, and you got to absorb some different blows at different times. That's cool. That's how it works. But again, we're just talking about David, and I was around him, and again, just given an opportunity to grow a little bit more within the job. Listen, I wasn't in the clubhouse. I don't know what the conversations were like. I just know what they were like between he and I like him a lot.
You know, Jed flew down to Florida and kind of surprised David at his house, and they had a long conversation. And I would guess that in that conversation was, here's what I didn't like, and here's why we're doing this. Did you ever get that? Did you feel like you got that from Theo? That kind of straight conversation?
When I was hired or let go?
What let go?
It was a cordial conversation. It was just obvious that they wanted to do something differently. It was really hard. It's really hard to connect all the dots after winning the first World Series in 108 years, to be gone a couple years after that with no losing seasons, and the last one being not so good, pretty much based on a lot of injuries in the last month of the year. So yeah, I thought we were going to be together longer than that. Like I said, I loved it there. It's the big league of the big leagues. I love the city, the fans, I love the ballpark. So. And the group of guys we had was pretty significant. And to just be disbanded that quickly, none of us really liked that, obviously. And I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't think it was cool. And I thought that we had some really good years to go beyond that. But of course, sat with Theo. Listen, it was never confrontational at all. It was very smooth and calm, actually. And the same thing with Perry and I. I mean, listen, if he's the boss and they want to do something differently, they got the bigger stick, man. Go ahead and do something differently. That's the way this whole thing works. So, no, it was never mean-spirited or anything like that. I'm just saying I disagreed, and I have the right to say I disagreed with the decision, and but it's moved on since then, and right now, back on the other side.
Yeah, it's interesting now because, like, when they give Counsell all that money and that deal, and they talk about being partners, and Jed's like, I want him to challenge me and make me better, and I don't want a yes man and all of that stuff. The perception was that there was friction and that there not enough of a partnership between Joe Maddon, the manager, and Theo Epstein in the front office. Mm. Is that perception reality, Joe?
Not for me, it wasn't. I mean, I know the last year there, all of a sudden, front office wanted to take over a lot more of what I normally did in the past. They wanted to restructure, pregame, and they thought a more choreographed pregame was necessary because some of the younger players on the team thought they needed it. And, of course, you're going to provide that all the time. My biggest thing there was to keep guys rested because of the schedule was so difficult. The fact that you play so many day games in the summer and just the day games in general and day games after night games, I've always felt that rest was more important than actual physical work. I still believe that. I'll always believe that. I've seen teams that have really wilted on the vine and latter in part of the season just based on being overworked during the season just because somebody believes that you have to be looking like you're working in order to be successful. Again, just look at our record there, and it was pretty good. It was pretty darn good for those years. And even with the Rays, we did the same thing down there in Tampa Bay in the Tropicana field, which was protected by an environmental roof. So, again, it's just, that was difference with that, but that only came up the last year. Prior to that, it was really not an issue.
Who do you keep in touch with, Joe, in terms of like players or Cubs connection or former coaches? Who's in the circle these days?
I mean, everybody checks in. I mean, like guys that Butterfield. I've been texting with Butter more recently. I text with Riz a lot. Anthony. Get in touch on a basis. Hickey, not more far in the past, Jimmy Hickey. Gosh, Chili David. I could go on and on. I mean, everybody, you touch base with everybody at a different point. There's a young man by the name of Tyler Jeske, a young A-ball manager that nobody knows about, that I've been going back and forth with him recently. He just wanted some advice on a job opportunity. I get this a lot. I get it from coaches in different sports. Even like guys checking in on the book as an example. They really appreciate the book and like it. Some really significant people like Jimmy Leland, as an example. So all this stuff, everybody stays in touch, and it's been great. I do get back as quickly as I possibly can, and we have great conversation, and it's something that I enjoy, absolutely enjoy. So I'm staying connected through the podcast. I'm staying connected. I'm doing a weekly gig with Brian Kenny on MLB Network that I really enjoy because Brian really challenges you, and I like that a lot. So that's been my staying reconnected. I do watch. I'm watching. I'm listening. I'm breaking down. I'm trying to understand, who's hired and why. I mean, I'm just trying to understand different front office methods and what's going on in the game in general right now. So I am staying connected. I do understand. I'm watching. But yeah, everybody. Honestly, I'll try to sit down and make a list. Everybody kind of checks in at different times.
Are you liking the media life?
I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Tom Verducci's a stud. He's a star, and Tommy has taught me a lot. Whether it was doing the book with him, and he's got a tremendous ability to write and put things together. His prose is outstanding, and his research. I really, God, do I love that about Tom. And we become friends, and because of friendship with him, it's blossoming in other areas. Like Brian Kenny, I was going down to Joe Namath's golf tournament last spring, whatever, and all of a sudden the phone rings. I picked it up, which I don't if I don't have the number. It was Brian Kenny, and he talked about this particular gig that he wanted to try us to work with, and we worked through it, and I've been with them all summer during the course of the baseball season and the playoffs, and that's been a great experience for me too. I Zoom a lot of classes. I Zoom different things. Like today I did a radiothon up in Williamsport for the Geisinger Hospital up there, and it's something that had to do with talking about real-life experience. Some of it had to do with talking about baseball right next to Bowman Field where they play the Little League game on an annual basis. So it's been busy, man. Honest to God, it's been busy. I'm living here in Pennsylvania, which I love, and then I'm going to go down to Florida when the weather is too cold. I'm going to go down after my mom's birthday. So it's been really interesting, and I'm enjoying it. And yes, I would do it again with the right group if the opportunity's out there. If not, I'll just continue to do what I'm doing because I am enjoying it.
Good. There's a gig that we've imagined you in, Joe. That would be amazing. When Ozzie Guillen comes on post game after White Sox games and breaks them down, it carries some weight because he won a World Series as a manager. So. Would you ever, if they asked, a little Cubs TV or radio right here on the Score, maybe a little Cubs TV pregame, postgame with Joe Maddon? Would you ever consider that?
I haven't even thought about it, to be honest with you. That means I'd have to be in Chicago a lot. That would require. I can't overstate how much I'm enjoying what I'm doing and where I'm living right now. It'd have to be. It's like anything else. I mean, you guys are the same. You know it. I mean, if you're going to undertake a new job somewhere else, it would depend on the passion of the people talking to you and why they want to have you there. And it would have to come from that sincere moment. If it is, and I thought it was a good fit, yeah, I would consider something like that. But it's nothing that I would drum up and put out there. It'd have to be something that somebody would ask me, quite frankly.
Wouldn't you want to hear Joe breaking down council moves or Hoyer moves? Or
Yes, I would. Well, you could be a weekly contributor to the Score, just like back in the day.
Oh, that's right.
And we can just call you in Florida or Pennsylvania.
Oh man, every show wants you though. Lawrence Holmes says hello.
Yeah,
everybody wants to say hello.
I love Lawrence. Please tell him I said hello. I love Lawrence.
We will.
All right, Joe. Well, we'll have a job offer for you.
That's what I've been doing with Brian Kenny. So MLB Network on Baseball Now, is that what it's called, right? I've been doing it once a week all season, and sometimes twice. So it's been Brian's taught me a lot. He challenges me, and I really dig it.
And by next season, you'll know the name of the show.
I will, because I don't pay attention. I pay attention to detail, but stuff like that, it's up to Brian to name his show, not me.
Listeners are wondering how the Cousin Eddie's doing.
Cousin Eddie's no longer in existence. What I bought was a firehouse in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, to store my vehicles. So I have an 1899 firehouse that's in great shape that has 5 cars in it, and it's going to have 7 by the time I go to Florida. And it's kind of like my own little personal storage unit. So it's great. I love it already. I'm going to paint it up a little bit. It's really cool. That's it. I'm going to be stationed right now in Pennsylvania and Florida. That's it. Going up and down the coast, and I'm enjoying it.
Good for you, Joe.